Thank you so much for joining us. We were having the discussion even before you go on air. It's a very heated, positive discussion here in the studio this morning. Now, immediately, we are done with youth unemployment in the country, and right now we are talking about dealing with addiction. Are you a drug or alcoholic addict? And how do you deal with addiction, drug addiction? As a parent, as a brother, as a sister, do you have a family member or a friend who is an addict? So how do you deal with it? Have you accepted that your friend or your relative is an addict? That is what we want to talk about this morning. And of course, as usual, every Monday we have our resident councillor, that is Fred Ombok, seated immediately to my far left, and he's here to talk to us about it, how to deal with drugs. And of course, seated next to Fred is none other than Emily Mukomunene. I hope I got that name right. Mukomunene, yes. Who's also an author, and she has also written a story about drugs, and the book is known as I'm Not a Dope. So in our studio, it clearly shows you that we have people who are specialized in this area to talk to us about dealing with addiction in our country, and of course also at the family level. And if you want to talk to us this morning, our Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at ZBrenda, SMS line is 22162. So feel free to field your question or even a comment concerning this morning's topic. Lady and gentlemen, dealing with addiction.
Sure. And
what leads one to addiction? I'll start with you, Emily.
It's a very complicated topic because most of the times we never really know when the rain started beating us, especially now that we find most people are getting addicted. Not addiction just to alcohol or drugs or other illegal substances. We are getting addicted to our electronic gadgets. We are getting addicted to the caffeines. There are those who are getting addicted to a specific medicine. We were reading the other day about this codeine, the cough syrup, which people are getting addicted to. So what leads to addiction? It's the desire to fulfill something in you. There is a vacuum, an emptiness. Yes, or even lack of proper direction, peer pressure. Yes.
Okay, Fred, what do you have to say about that?
All right, definitely we need to understand that human beings are actually social but also psychologically entailed to patternized towards a certain kind of an engagement. And so this drives us on to have a certain kind of a passion and urge to do a particular thing. And of course, we are born on hope and desires to be able to accomplish different ventures in our lives. And so you discuss that we not necessarily accomplish this one easily. And when we do not accomplish them, there's an element of frustration in us. And when we are frustrated, we always desire to land into something that is going to soothe us and give us a comfort. And through this, you discover that addiction comes because either through alcoholism or any other kind of an engagement give that leeway to such kind of a comfort. And which is, if not clearly looked into, can necessarily lead to addiction. And so it is important to measure up, first of all, put on your value systems in that, getting to understand that success is not final and failure is not fatal. And this element is will help you to know that you can give a shot at a particular thing, but the fact that you does not achieve it does not mean that you are inevitable.
Yeah. And a lot of people become addicted to drugs due to frustration.
Sure.
Like frustration. You're frustrated and you feel like, I need to do what people call kutoa lok.
Yes.
It leads you to frustration.
To frustration, is true.
Have you ever dealt with such kind of people as a counselor?
True. They are frustrated because they have goals and benchmarks that they would like to achieve and they did not get to achieve them. And we need to understand that for something, there is nothing new under the sun. And what you're trying to attempt, someone attempted it, either failed or succeeded. And so you're not the first to succeed.
Neither will you be the last.
The last,
Yeah.
So people need to get to understand that whatever you're venturing in can work or can fail to work. But failure to work does not mean that you don't achieve anything. And so how do you deal? People know how to deal with success rather than how to deal with failure. And dealing with failure or the ability to say no is stronger than accepting and celebrating your yes and achievement. So this component is what results into frustration and then laps us into drugs. And we become dependent so that we can soothe ourselves and try to assume that we are forgetting what we are. Yet the reality still stands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Emily?
Yeah, I agree with my colleague here, what is talking. And also we are saying the youth are not guided properly, especially when we talk about the youth. Most of them, they are left idle. We've had the youth who are talking about unemployment, although it's not an excuse. It is not an excuse, because we know that we've seen people who have lived for 50 years. After 50 years is when your dream starts becoming a reality. So we need forums where we can be able to mentor the young people so that we can be able to tell them things take time, they do not happen immediately. Because idleness is what has led, especially to the young people, getting into drugs, getting into alcohol addiction. Also terminologies like when we say drugs and substance abuse. Because when we say drugs and substance abuse, what does that terminology tell us? It tells us you are abusing what?
You're abusing a drug.
You are abusing the drugs. Brenda, if I abuse you and you cannot defend yourself, and in the process I get pleasure, what will stop me from abusing you?
Okay. But now you see, Emily, when you people are talking here, it's like the focus is on the young people. But the reality is addiction is not just affecting the young people. It's also affecting people who are above the youth age gap.
Remember, they started when they were youth. They have not matured, become parents, when they are still on either drugs or alcohol or addicted to certain components to certain substances or components. So they are not starting getting addicted as adults. They're already adults who are already addicted. So where we are focusing more on youth, it's because we want to cut it. Yeah, so that we don't want today's youth, they become future parents, future adults who are already addicts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Fred, do you agree with Emily's sentiments? And even as you answer that question, what I've asked you, whether you agree with her sentiments or not, my other question is, are family members have reached that point of accepting that my friend or my brother or my sister or my father or my mother is an addict?
Great. Yeah, first, I agree with Emily in the context that we are living in a competitive world, and every level of your life is always competitive. You will discover that a child desires to outdo other children. As a CEO in one organization tries to outdo another organization. And so there's something that we're competing and an urge and a desire that you're working on to. And every other time that you're giving an attempt and a shot onto it, you discover that you are actually not reaching on the target. And it requires you to re-strategize, rethink, and refocus on what you're doing. And on the process, there tend to be a frustration. So that can actually lead both to addiction on the young people, but also the old. There are people who are actually frustrated. They are into marriages that cannot be able to work. And as a result of that, the result on into addiction, because they can actually be able to find solace on there. But also the other element is, when it comes to alcoholism and all this kind of drugs, they actually mentor to pleasure. But the effect of them is so detrimental to the society and to the family, to an extent that on one extent, it's a bit embarrassing to call your relative an impotent. And you cannot, you have relatives, you have friends, you have husbands who cannot be able to perform certain kind of duties because they're dependent on kind of a drug. And so on the context of the society that we are in, it's still a bit embarrassing to actually come out and admit that our people are into this. Until they get out of due, because as more we're trying to heed them, they cannot be able to work, so they will steal money in the house. They cannot be able to perform. They cannot be able to engage in a well-articulated way. And so this results into some element of disorder. And so people normally come out when they have actually reached a point of no return. When it's too late. Yeah, when it's too late. Yeah, and they're reaching out not because they're actually looking on for help, but it's also embarrassing for them, and they cannot do that. Yeah.
Emily, as an author of I'm Not Dope, because when Fred was talking, you were totally agreeing with Fred. Like, it's when people come out to accept when it's too late, when someone actually needs to be in a rehab center.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you see, like addiction is not something that where you feel the pain, like you say, you have ulcers, you're experiencing the pain. So this is something you'll take action immediately. But when it is addiction, it is something that is short term for that time. Because the minute you take that drug you are taking, if it's cocaine or the bang you are taking, it gives you that instant gratification. So for that moment, you are not yourself. Then within no time, you get back to the normal life or to a daily routine. Then the minute you get the urge, then you go and take the same dose again. So it's something that it takes time for you to realize that you are sinking deep into addiction. But it does not mean that the family members are not aware. Because if somebody, let's say like, every time you come in the evening, you are drunk, or every time you come in the evening, you cannot even stand on your feet, the family is aware.
So
but what the family...
both of you, sorry for cutting you short, are both of you saying that for one to say that my husband or my wife or my son or my daughter or my friend is an addict, is when this person cannot stay without this substance every day? Like every day if I get into the house when I'm drunk or I have to use cocaine every day, then it means I'm an addict?
It's not necessarily every day. The days could pass because, you know, we are into social engagements. But when this becomes a point of solace and, you know, an element of comfort, it is definitely an addiction.
Okay.
Yes. Because maybe you cannot take it every day, but if you cannot be able to handle a certain money, you resort to it, then you're already addicted.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Also remember, Brenda, most people are not aware of what addiction is. So you don't even realize this is what is termed as addiction in the medical term or in the society. So you find you insult somebody, you are a drunkard, wewe ni mlevi, you know, you are a good for nothing, or you are useless, or you always coming drunk, you know, you have become a bother to us. Those are the kind of terminologies that are used until when they realize that this person actually has a mental state, because addiction gets to a point where we can say it is a mental instability or is a state of mental illness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I like what both of you said, and Fred and Emily, when you're saying that families do not want to accept, like our own is, or a friend is an addict. So they come to talk about it when it's too late. Let's talk about a parent who has a kid who always comes back home drunk, or a kid who, we're looking at two scenarios. One, a parent who has a kid who always comes back home drunk, or a friend who's always drunk. Two, a parent who has a friend or a kid whom they do not even know that this person uses drugs such as cocaine or bang. They don't have an idea. So by the time they're realizing, is when this person is rooted deep into taking, you know, this substance. Yeah. Fred.
Great.
So just look at those two scenarios as you answer and how to deal with them.
Definitely. Just as I said earlier, that we are social beings. And our social aspect is that actually we engage with people. When we have a disconnect in that everyone becomes for himself and then God for us all, then it's a leeway for someone to be able to struggle with their own difficulties and challenges, and then purport to be that as long as they coexist, it is okay. Now, the number one thing is to get to accept that something is wrong. You know, the element of acceptance does not mean that giving in into that particular moment, but it opens your eyes into the variety of options and what can be done to be able to rescue a situation. Then when you accept, you get to adjust. There's level adjustment because, you know, rather than, you know, when people don't accept, then they begin to blame. Now, it's a blame game. You either blame people that your son or your husband is associating with. You blame what they do. You blame
their friends.
Where they come from, whether it's a generational kind of a thing. But when you accept, then you get to adjust. Because tendency is that we actually, most of the parents, they seclude their children who are actually involved in this. And seclusion is not the option. It's actually built into them. But these people need to accept them. They need love. They need care. They need to be told that, you know what? Because some of the people get themselves involved in drugs so that they can be man enough and they can be able to perform, or they can be able to, you know, an agile in the society. But what happened is actually, that is a misconception that is created on there. But truth delivers oppression. In that when we get to share with them that, you know what, you are better than the way you are. And you know, when my sister talked about doping, you discover that our athletes who are actually even very stand out in the society get themselves engaged in drugs so that they can actually be able to enhance themselves into what they're doing, not necessarily understanding that they are good in what they're doing even without that drug.
Okay.
Now, when we actually accept, adjust, then we'll be able to advance and get into understand what can we do out of this. You know, how do I need to get a counselor? Do I need to expose this thing to the society and the relevant authority? Do I need to tell the police? You know, because some of these things you need to engage on in rather hiding them out.
Okay. Emily, what if you live with someone and you don't even know this person is a drug addict or is abusing? Let's talk about, let me just mention it specifically. Is abusing cocaine or bang. You don't even have an idea this person is using this sort of substance.
Yes.
Then it comes out later when this person is an addict. How do you do with that?
First of all, I would go to identify what is abusing them. I said I'll not call them they're abusing the
So we're
substance.
looking at a scenario whereby you don't even know your son or your daughter or your, in short, your relative or your friend is using this substance.
So you get to realize that later.
You get to realize that later.
The minute you realize they are in self-abuse or using any of these drugs, then you talk to them first of all, find out what they're using. Tell them, I am aware, because they may not accept. But first of all, approach them, you tell them, I am aware this is happening to you. I am aware you are using something. And because they are looking for, as my Mr. Fred had said, they're in vacuum, they're in denial. They will come out and say and confess and say, it is true. I have been using something, and this is what I've been using. So from there now is when you start tackling the problem. Because you realize somebody who is already addicted or in self-abuse, they are looking for somebody to confide in. Yes. And they're looking for acceptance. So the minute you approach them in a non-confrontational manner, they will be able to confide in you, then you can be able to walk the journey and find out how deep-rooted are they into that habit. Then you can take them either for rehabilitation or counseling or whatever it is necessary to bring them back. Yeah.
Let me bring a very sensitive question. Are our parents contributors to this addiction? Because, you know, there's some parents who you tell your kid, oh, we're going to so-and-so's house, or let's go, I'm hanging out with my friends. Then you see your parents, or Mepanga or Pombe, you know, different brands, and you're drinking in front of your kids. Then you walk with your kid when you are sober. Then you leave that place when you're tipsy. And this is your kid who's supposed to help you walk home or open for you the door. So are our parents part of the problem?
Nothing could be further from the truth. In that the fact that we are a social being makes us that every element and engagement that we are in not only affect us but also affect the environment that we are living in. And you know, with the social development, it requires an environment that is positive and adhere to the kind of a character that you are actually purporting on to develop. Now, mostly you discover that you tend to pattern yourself to an environment that you come from. When you come from a Christian kind of an environment, you tend to align yourself to a Christian kind of an environment. When you come from a violence background, chances are high that you will be violent. And if you come from a drug-ridden kind of a background, definitely, even if you are actually an angel from heaven, you will definitely try to make it. Why? Because, you know, your social element affects who you are. And so parents play a big role in this. But in a case whereby parents say, do as I say, not do as I do. Now it comes. Character is not taught. Character is caught. And we need to adhere to the element that what we do is what is caught. Your children take not what you say, but how you say it. They're keen on how you say it. You know, and they're keen on what you do, how you behave. Look at children when they are playing, and you know they're playing Baba and Mama kind of a game outside there. They try to tend on to behave the way their parents behave, and they exemplify the intrigued character. You see a child is abusing other children outside there. Maybe one of the parents is actually abusive in the house, and they purport to actually bring on this in the periphery in the play, and they begin to adopt onto it, and gradually ends on into addiction.
It's true. It is true. Yeah, parents have a big role to play. They also influence a lot what the children become in future. Yes. So we had the Mutudho, is it Mutudho law?
The Mutudho
When
law.
the Mutudho law came, he said, let's restrict where you take your children. Let's restrict what you do when you're with the children. No beer, not taking the children to the pubs, not taking the children to the drinking places. That was a very, very good take.
But then now
When
you
they
see,
said-
just finish.
Yeah, when they said also, let's close the drinking places up to 5, from 5 a.m., it was a very good, it was a positive law.
Okay.
But you find like, even in the drinks, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to get something. There's a lot of betting and all that.
Okay.
You find now in the drinks, they are saying scratch here and you'll win. Yeah. So what will stop somebody from buying 10 bottles of that drink, whether it is
the sake of
Tusker
winning.
or vodka, for the sake of winning
Okay.
that one? What are we encouraging?
Okay.
Yes. Who is looking for the money? Not only the adults, even
Okay.
children are looking for money.
Okay.
Yes.
But then now you see, you watch your parent, your parent or your friend is drinking. Then you've answered my question. You know, parents also contribute to this. But also let's look at another scenario. We have probably, you come from a well-off family or middle-income family, and the parents who will always have a drink in the house.
I get you.
Ile chupa, they call it chupa ya
msinga.
sijui msinga ya baba iko tu hapo kwa kabati. And then once in a while you'll hear a daughter or a son, Dad, can I just taste? And then your dad's like, yeah, you can just try. Aren't you worried as a parent that you're introducing your child to an addiction?
A lot of people who come into my counseling sessions and are actually looking for an option, a way out, in either their children or them, 99% that I talk to always admit that if I could avoid my children getting involved in what I've actually addicted to, that would be the perfect of my life, even the drunk of the drunk. Now, wealth does not mean mischief. And, you know, it is not, as you are not building a state, a stature by the fact that you have alcohol in your house. Because you know what? Alcohol does not add value to what you are. It's actually degrade your value. And so I'm talking to parents out there who feel that, you know what, they are more valuable when they have alcohols in there and wines in their fridge and wherever they are. You are actually destroying a generation that you have a responsibility to build. And you know, if you became, maybe you are a CEO and that's why you can be able to make those things. And you know, they always tell their children, you know, if I were you, you know, I would be the president, you know, I would be the what, and I would be the what, and I would be, and you're telling your children who you are not. Then why are you telling children what you're not?
What you're not.
What you are not.
Yeah.
Emily.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is very, very true. We need to set the set the right examples to the children. We need to set the right examples to the youth. We need to redirect our own thinking so that we can be able to redirect the youth of today, the children who are getting born, for the benefit of this country. And the best place, like you find, although there is the time the parents are with the children and when they are getting involved in because you will not find alcohol and cigarettes and all those things in school. You will find them at home or on the way when you are walking home. But we need also to take the issues of addiction to be taught in schools more seriously, to involve the children, especially as they're approaching to teenagehood, when their pleasure centers are developing and they are drawn more to things that make them happy or things that make them relax, rather than the senses that make them responsible citizens. So we need to re-educate the children in schools, take the Ministry of Education, tell them, let's emphasize, let's have forums where they can be able to read and even have books, like, not because I'm marketing my book, the book I'm Not a Dope, which has those issues that talk about how can we prevent? How does this addiction stop you from achieving your future dreams and your goals? Your mother might be, or your father might be a lawyer. Maybe you don't want to be a lawyer. You want to be something better. But that addiction, let's teach the children that addiction can stop you from being what the president that your father is saying, I wish you could be the president. Maybe it is what has stopped them from getting there. We have even good books like, which are up even in the Orange books, like Dawn of Reality, a play on our local setups, what my brother is talking about, what happens on daily basis, the engagement with the children, sending the children, having them sing there. These are the books, and shown even the effect of the same and how families have been destroyed. Future generations, we are destroying them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. You're running. Okay.
I think it's important to get to the reality. We cannot leave parenting to Ezekiel Mutua. He's doing a good job.
And actually, I was even going to come there. Fred. And I was actually saying you're running out of time, so I just needed to use the next 5 minutes very resourcefully with what the next addiction that I want to introduce.
Yes.
We talk about addiction, people think about drugs, alcohol only.
Yes.
And what I was telling you to introduce is what Ezekiel Mutua does. Pornography, an addiction.
Yes.
You know, like, and a parent, you don't even know what your kid is watching.
No.
And sadly, even the adults are into this addiction. Yeah.
Allow me to say this. What you don't address, you can't arrest. And the more we are playing ignorant to the development of our children, we are literally exposing them to things that we do not want them to get into. Sex has become an issue that has to be discussed parallelly, inevitably, candidly, within an age limit, and people get to understand themselves. The young people out there do not understand who they are, and so they do not even understand their sexuality. And that's why, and parents are in fear and seen as a taboo to talk about sex because they do not know. Now, what happened is that someone who is cute and have immoral attitude out there is actually bringing on into a sense to be able to expose them into sex, but in a wrong way.
And hence Ezekiel Mutua comes in.
That's Ezekiel Mutua is coming in. He's trying to rescue a society that is already distorted. It is a responsibility of every parent to talk to your children about sexuality. And number one, they got to appreciate their sexuality. And number two, they need to get to understand what context are they able to expose themselves. And you know, it is important to let the generation of today understand that they are not living for the today's pleasure, but for the posterity of their future. And the responsibility of recreation belongs to them. And so when you expose your body, does not mean that you're beautiful. You know, there are things for the public, there are things for the bedroom.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Fred. Thank you for that strong sentiment. Emily, addiction, you know, pornography addiction.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is taken root, and we are not doing anything about it. Even the the council, they are not doing anything about it. You walk on a street like Moi Avenue, you'll find a nude woman advertising brassiers and whatever, and you know, in bikers and naked as an advertisement. Yeah. So those are the things that we should be able to control. Look at the movies, the movie shops and the movies that are being sold. They are full of pornography.
You know,
without knowing that, we have to tell people, they get to know how pornography itself affects even their sexual
psychology.
organs.
Okay.
Psychologically, physically, and even the functions of a woman as a normal woman, or the functions of a man as a normal man. Yes.
You know, both of you are talking about the same thing. You know, parents have to play a role. Don't leave it to Ezekiel Mutua. Don't leave it to the teachers outside there.
Yes.
But at what point, as a parent, do you know my kid is addicted to pornography?
I don't think we have, we don't have to wait to know that our child
But
is
how
addicted.
would you know?
No, we have to
How
teach
would
them.
you know?
We have
Because
to teach them it
you
is
don't
out
even
there.
spend. Okay, this is a parent's life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Assume a parent wakes up. A parent who's an 8 to 5
Yes.
job.
So they normally wake up at 5 or
Assume
6.
you wake up at 5. Early in the morning, you're rushing, probably leave your house, help your house manager with your kids, drop them to school. You go to work. From work, you're in Gumbaru, like university
Yes,
or
yes.
college, you know, trying to chase after
Yes.
academics.
Yes.
You're not chasing after things. You don't even know what's happening in your child's life.
Great.
At what point do you know your child is addicted to pornography?
Great. You know, it doesn't matter how much you earn. The greatest responsibility that each parent has been given by God and the society expect of you is the upbringing of your children. You can make money and nobody will remember how much money you made. But when you bring up a responsible son or a daughter, people will refer to that daughter of so-and-so or son of so-and-so. So it is important, however much we are busy, to create time for our children. Not only to check on their homework, but to know their behavioral challenges and adoption. Now, secondly, when you fail to teach the right thing, you have opened door for the wrong thing automatically.
Okay.
Yes. And you know, it beats the logic, the society that we are in. We are Africans. Why do we advertise bra? Do you have to advertise it for people to? It is inevitable that people have to wear it. So please, the marketers out there, spare our generation. Stop advertising things that are unnecessary. You are actually bringing a moral degradation to our young people.
Okay.
Because when you expose things which are not supposed to expose, we are actually begin to stereotype our mind, the mind of the young people, that there is something that is hidden on somewhere and I need to investigate it.
Provoke the curiosity.
But at what point does a young person realize I'm addicted to pornography? We've
They-
moved right from the parents. Now you're dealing with the individual. Is it whether it's a young person or an adult, a father, a mother? You know, at what? Because even them, they're addicted to pornography. At what point does an individual realize I'm addicted to this?
Nobody,
And how do I get out of it?
Brenda, I don't think anybody realizes they are addicted. Somebody else comes and tells them, you are addicted to this thing. It's when they start going back to their senses and say, yes, as you talk of it, I realize that I am addicted. Yes, because as you keep on doing it, you are doing what you enjoy. So you have no time to think of, am I addicted? Is it the right thing or it's not the right thing? All you realize is either pornography, later on somebody tells you, oh, and you are so much on, what are you doing on your telephone all the time? What are you doing on the screen all the time? What are you doing? What movie are you watching? Until somebody pronounces the word that you are addicted to this thing is when now somebody gets like, you know, they come back to their senses and say, come to think of it, I am addicted.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Fred, just apart from curiosity of someone wanting to explore, why would you think young people and young people, yeah, I really don't want to restrict myself to young people because they're also grown-ups who are addicted.
Very true.
Like, why would you want to be addicted to pornography?
Number one is self.
Is it that you're idle? Is
No.
it that you don't have like you don't have a lot of, you don't have like a self-identity, like you're proud of yourself?
Great. Now, number one is self-gratification. When, you know, there are things that the body easily wants. And our body needs to be subjected to our values and moral systems because we cannot allow our feelings to control us. Feelings comes and go. But we have our brain. God has not given us the spirit of fear. He has given us the spirit of power, love, and sound mind. We are sound to the effect of the things that are easily destroys our body system. Now, each and every person needs to have values that guides them, needs to have standards that they are there into. And these standards ought to be reminded. And for us to be able to be reminded, we need to have accountability check with other people. Now, when we are confined into ourselves, there are all manner of things that actually hit us from all corners, pressures that come from all manner of things. And when they come, they tend to drive us to our safe ground and to the comfort things that can be able to give us pleasure easily. And you know, we have our smartphone that we can actually be able to access some of these things easily. But you know what? Do we understand the long-term detrimental effect that they have in our lives? And you know, these things need to be taught. And when they are not taught, we are ignorant of them, and so we easily detract on them. Now, let us expose our young people to moral, positive upbringing, but also let us expose them to knowledge, because knowledge is power. When they get knowledge, they will know how to deal with their smartphone and get off from issues that can be able to affect them negatively.
Okay, it is exactly 9. Time goes so fast. We need to wind up the show. My director is just like, we need to wind up the show. In 2 seconds, I know 2 seconds is not much enough. Just 2 seconds, you're parting short.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to redirect the youth. We need to redirect our thinking. We have to take the issues of education more seriously. The right knowledge that can be able to impact on behavior and attitude change, both for adults and youth, especially in schools.
Okay, thank you so much, Emily. Fred?
There's a uniqueness of our existence. And our uniqueness comes from our moral and our value systems. As a parent, you have the responsibility to bring up a generation that will bring transformation. And as a child, you get to understand that the world waits for you out there. And you are responsible to make an impact, a generation that will be able to transform others. Let us know what we are consuming has a great effect into who we are.
Wow, let us know what we are consuming has a great effect to who we are. And parting shot from Emily. We just need to know, we need to take care of our young people, whether in school or at home. That is just the best. winded up this show today in a very, very good way, because that's why we are here at KBC Channel 1 Good Morning Kenya, to ensure that every aspect of your life is covered, be it politics, be it your social life, be it your educational life. Every aspect of your life is covered here on KBC Channel 1 Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for keeping us company from 6 a.m. to right now. It is 9:02, where we've come to the end of our show. And of course, we'll do the same thing the same way tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And of course, Family Check every Monday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. My name is Brenda Zederadido, and thanks to everyone who has made this morning production a success. And of course, you, the viewer, for your feedback, and of course, for keeping us company until now. Have a lovely day. God bless. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. And of course, my colleagues Samuel Njoroge and Safina Jim will also be here with me tomorrow morning. Have a blessed day.